If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
Hello and welcome, Benchwarmers. We are live. We surprised you. We snuck up on you. That's what happens. You got to be on your toes all March. You know that we don't sleep at this point of the year. We had a couple of things come up where I was recovering from some travel issues, which I'm sure I'll inevitably talk about, because that's kind of like when you're a podcaster and you have a travel issue, you got to talk about it. So I got to get that off my chest. We'll talk a little bit about the wrestling tournament. There's another tournament going on that people might be aware of. That's, what most people pay attention to this time of the year, unless you are like a diehard free agency and NFL offseason guy. You're still talking about the combine. But Jimmy Plato, Nico Bryant, episode 130. Nick, we had the big bonus episode for March Madness last weekend. I would say the first weekend of games lived up to the hype. How are you feeling after all of that? Is your bracket still in contention?
My bracket's completely dead. It's
completely dead. You owned up to it quickly. You were like, why did I think Kansas was going to –
I don't know what my thought process was looking back at it. Like, the initial bracket that I first filled out, like, it doesn't mean shit because the bracket was written down, so it doesn't mean anything. And I know you could be like, Nico, you're pulling shit out of your ass. But my initial bracket had Kansas losing in the Elite Eight. So that if I just went with initial thoughts, I would have done a lot better. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, they lost to the Musclemen and the
transfer portal wizard.
The muscle man, the guy who rips his shirt off after a win. That's how my bracket dies. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that was an interesting way for the weekend to go. No, but be sure follow at FEOTB Pod if you're watching us live on Twitter, on YouTube. Subscribe, leave a like. You can leave a comment. Let us know what you think. How's your bracket doing? If you're in our challenge, hopefully you're up towards that number one. I honestly stopped looking because I had Arizona.
I haven't looked at that.
I had Arizona in the Final Four. This is one of the first times. Granted, I didn't always fill out brackets growing up. I know you did for every tournament, and it just wasn't something I always did. Since I started filling out the brackets, being on the radio, having the podcast, wanting to win these damn competitions, because I haven't won a goddamn single one. Like none at all.
Hey, I'll tell you right now, there's a good shot neither of us win this one. So
good for everybody else. Good for you.
For everyone else.
Where is that Ace Ventura? Well, good for you. Oh. Speaking of good for you, that's how I'm going to transition. I'm going to throw this in there. Airlines, there's nothing we could do about it, but oh my, so the comparison that I have, I go to North Carolina for the week last week. That's where I was in for the bonus show that we did with Jeremy. Shout out to Jeremy for coming on last week. Be sure if you haven't checked that episode out, go back and listen. He's really knowledgeable about what he says. I think he's doing better than the two of us.
He's definitely doing better than the two of us. His Hoosiers, though, are out already, so he's not very happy about that. But
he also said that was a very likely possibility. So
but the fact he lost to the team where his dad went to school does not help at all. And then the girls' team also the next day also lost to Miami. So yeah, Jeremy's down bad currently. So I don't think he cares less about his bracket.
No.
We may have him back for the Final Four. Just a quick segment here. So because obviously the Final Four next week, we may figure something out along those lines because Jeremy obviously is college basketball wizard. I'm a wizard when it comes to January. Jeremy watches college basketball like a freak in November. So it's a little different.
Yeah, no, there's the intensities are varying, but we had that great show. It was an awesome week in North Carolina, kind of got to relax. In the South, I've noticed now, like this is first time I didn't go down there for a football tournament. Life moves a little bit slower. You could just kind of sit, hang out on the beach, sit out on the porch. So that was all good. We planned to come home Saturday. I was going to get back like 10 o'clock Saturday night, so it'd be a late night, but I have all Sunday to rest, recuperate, because guess who has to teach 170 7th graders on Monday morning, no matter what. However I feel, whenever I got back to Colorado, because it turns out it was going to be a struggle. We got our flight delayed before we got to the airport. It was delayed 3 times before our initial boarding time. We stand up. We think, okay, here we go. They're going to let us on. And all of a sudden, nope, sorry, we're delayed another 4 hours. So this puts us back from initially a 3 o'clock takeoff to just get to our connection. All the way, we were delayed to 10 p.m. We started sitting in the bar. We were drinking beers. Everybody was lamenting. Everyone knows if your flight gets canceled more than 3 times in one day, or excuse me, delayed 3 times in one day, it gets canceled.
It's canceled, yeah.
And then you have to drive the 2.5 hours to Raleigh because Raleigh is an actual. I drove with Raleigh to Raleigh. That was a good one there. But yeah, no, you travel more often for work than I do. I never want to travel again, or I'm traveling within road tripping distance because I just and
I would love to hear what airline you're on because there's certain airlines that I'll completely avoid.
yeah, well, this was American, so
Yep.
the issue
My
was
mother works for American, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it is shitty. It is very shitty.
yeah,
And I have not flown American unless it's a free flight. Let's put it that way. From my mother. That's the only time I've ever flown American. Plain simple.
So we've ended up flying American because it was the only airline to go to Wilmington, which is the closest airport. But to give you an idea, Wilmington is like the Centennial Airport. So it's regional. It costs a lot of money to fly out of there. And then if they don't have a plane, it's not like they have 150 flights coming in to get you a new one. They're like, yeah, no, sorry, we got to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
We just don't have.
It could be worse. It could have been. This is you on Sunday, right?
Yeah, we were smart in the fact that we booked the flight to come home the day before anyways. Her parents were able to get us. We slept in beds. We didn't have to stay in the airport or lift up to Raleigh. But it was a struggle. I will tell you, that's a test. This whole trip was kind of like a test. I was meeting her family and we were kind of getting a feel for each other for the first time. I was seeing where her parents live now. We were kind of testing each other throughout the whole week. And what could have ended up being just an absolute disaster with anybody else, I will give her a big shout out because 10 hours in an airport plus a 2.5 hour drive at 3 o'clock in the morning. It could have been a lot worse. Yeah. Could have been a lot worse.
A lot of patience. I have grown impatient with airplanes nowadays, so I don't even I expect all my flights to get delayed nowadays. So it's not even like I have an hour to get to my plane. I should probably check my bag. Oh, it'll probably be delayed in 15 minutes. So I might as well like getting through our DIA airport. I can get through. I can start security with 30 minutes left, and I know that there's a good chance I make it through because the flight's going to get delayed. That's how confident I am in me making it on time.
Yeah, the line was long. We were leaving early.
It's not ideal. I know it's not ideal, but
I'm pre-check, so I at least have that going for me. I don't know if you're pre-check. You should be with as much as you travel. You should.
I'm clear too, so yeah.
Oh, you're okay. So never mind, Mister. I don't have to take off my shoes.
I am pre-check now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Exactly. So I trust me. I have broke the system. I also don't fly out on weekends. I fly out on Mondays and Wednesdays, so it's not as
good
bad.
days to fly. Yeah. We could have been smarter. We could have booked an earlier flight earlier in the day. But I did while I was out there. I watched the NCAA Wrestling Tournament. So again, we're getting good at this live show segues kind of thing. NCAA Wrestling Tournament. One fact that I want to throw out there because it's going to blow your mind. It blew my mind. So there have been 10 people to ever walk on the moon. Nico, do you know how many people are 4-time NCAA National Wrestling Champions?
I would say less than 5.
There is now currently 5.
Close?
So
less
on Saturday,
5? Like around that, higher, lower, 6?
5 exactly. There is now 5 exactly on Saturday. Yanni Diakomahalis won his 4th national title for Cornell, and he became the 5th person ever to win 4 national titles. Penn State won the team championship. They've now won 11 championships within the last 13 years. They are absolute factory. And we talked about a guy recently, Bo Nickel. People thought that he was going to be the last generation of great Penn State teams under Cale Sanderson. I don't know if you know much about Cale Sanderson. He's the only guy to ever go undefeated all 4 years of college. He's 159-0 through those 4 years. And now he's just gone out there and won every single team championship for the last pretty much 15 years. It's the biggest dynasty I can think of relative to the sport and how that's how you measure success. You don't get those teams like there was Iowa in the 80s.
Yeah,
They won 30 something out of 40 years. Did 11 out of 15 years, 13 out of 15 years, however much it's up to now. It's just a level of greatness. Like, how do you remain hungry? How do you remain wanting to go to practice and winning another championship because you've done it all?
Yeah, that's all that is just like, hey, like, okay, the next guy that's in line, you're expected to win a national championship. That's plain and simple. It's like, yeah, you're not I don't know the weight classes, but you're not the number one guy for this weight class this year. But the number two, you're expected to come in next year after this guy senior leaves and win a national championship. And if you're not good enough, you're not staying. That's plain and simple. It's like you if it's the old saying, or not the old saying, but the Alabama saying, every person that has walked through those doors out of Alabama football facility has won an SEC championship. It's the same thing now. Instead of every 4 years, it's one every year. Like, if you don't have 2 or 3 rings by the end of it, then something went horribly wrong.
Exactly. And so the other comparison I can show for the dominance, they won it by 30 points. They had it won before the final 2 sessions on Saturday, which, if you know how it's like wrestling tournaments, I would assume the martial arts tournaments would be ran similarly. If you score points based on individual matches for your team. They had it won before Saturday even happened. They were one of 2 schools to have multiple national champions in individual weight classes. Both guys that won their national championship are 3-time national champions, back to back to back, all right in a row, like 40-match win streaks. These guys not only are they dominant and win in the big moments, they just don't lose, period. Like Carter Starachi, Aaron Brooks, I want to make sure we know those 2 names. They both said they're going to go into UFC and follow in Bo Nickal's footsteps. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be a problem.
I love it. That's where it should be. For the longest time, like, these wrestlers, that was the peak of their career, Jim. It really was. And I'm not downplaying the March Madness at all. But Bo Nickel right now is on an absolute tear and a beeline to being one of the baddest men on the planet. And that's what wrestlers have always felt as they are. And now you get a chance to do that with the UFC. I look, Gable Stevenson should have done it. I think a lot of other people should continue to do it. I don't know about that. He can make a lot. He can make a lot of money in WWE. That's
and
look, wrestling.
Sorry.
It's okay. Wrestling has become away from WWE. It's not the fake shit, and as much as we love it, it's not that anymore. It's become, I am an all-American college wrestler. How can I take this to the next level and improve boxing, improve judo, improve all the different methods that can help me become the baddest man on the planet and be a UFC champion? Plain and simple, because Bellator, same, won championship. There's countless other companies that all carry into not only this being the end of your highlight of your life, right? Like I said, for the most part, for a lot of years there, you win the college national championship, you're working at 9 to 5. It's the same thing with college lacrosse players. Yeah. Same exact thing. College lacrosse players, you win a national championship, you're working at Dick's Sporting Goods stringing sticks. Plain simple.
You're in Ivy League though. You could get an insurance job.
So it's a little different, but either way, it's and nowadays the way the combat sports is taken off, it is really just elevated to a different level.
Yeah, and too with Bo Nickel, he's already competed in the world tournaments for wrestling, like just the freestyle and Olympic wrestling. He's also talking about being able to still do that, compete in those tournaments, and I would give him just as good a shot to win those wrestling tournaments and be on the world team, while also I hope the UFC does it the right way. I think they need like 3 more fights for Bo Nickel to like cement. You don't need to bump him all the way up into the top 10. Give him like a guy right outside the top 15 next. Give him a guy that's right outside the top 10, then maybe one of the lower top 10 guys. You can get 3 or 4 fights out of him, get him comfortable. He could be competing for an Olympic medal while also training to be a top 10 UFC fighter. And one proves that it can be done. That's not something that has been done currently, because Cejudo had retired from Olympics by the time he was a UFC fighter, so he wasn't even still active there.
Technically, but that's a different, obviously, form. It's not wrestling, but it's judo, but still technically around.
And she, I think, retired from judo, if I remember from her book correctly, because, I was a weirdo that read her book when I was in high school. She retired from judo before she started fighting MMA too. So this would be unprecedented. It would be very difficult because Bo Nickel is going to out wrestle everyone in the UFC, hands down. Doesn't matter weight class. He will find a way. He's going to beat you in a straight up wrestling match. he's going to wrestle these other guys. Like the crazy thing about most of these world teams, like Daniel Cormier never won an Olympic medal. He's one of the best wrestlers that has ever been in the UFC. A lot of guys haven't won actual medals that are still very high level. And, it's cool for me because this is the one weekend out of the year where like more than just wrestling fans. I'll tell you at practice, we talk about it nonstop. We could probably do I could probably do a whole separate podcast series with the other wrestling coaches, just talking about college wrestling and the intricacies of it. This was the one weekend where more people got around to it. I'm hoping that I go to one of these national tournaments in the future and I will do some great content. I think that'll be awesome content for the show when it comes to it. But depending on where they go next, that's where I'm
hoping, knock on wood. Look, I went to the basketball games here in Denver, so and it comes back in 2 years. So I saw the people sitting on the floor with the media, and that's one of my goals, for me to be sitting there and you be sitting in the wrestling one. And I think that'd be a hell of a show.
Yeah, we should definitely try and get something like that to work. And another awesome segue here on this impromptu live episode of the Far End of the Bench podcast. Thank you very much for continuing to watch. Be sure to follow, like, retweet, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Tell your friends to subscribe and follow as well. You'll be able to listen to the audio version of this show tomorrow. I'll release it early tomorrow morning on Friday. But for now, let's talk about this March Madness tournament because you went to the games that were in Denver.
Biggest upset in wrestling history?
Well,
you don't want to talk about that. My glasses are not broken. My glasses are still intact. Like I took them off calmly. I did not rip them to shreds and absolutely break them apart.
She is a bad woman. She was an alternate for the U.S. judo team. Have you seen the video?
I don't want to mess with her.
No. There's a video. Her and like Spencer
I've seen the video of breaking glasses. The only time I've ever seen it.
Yeah. It was when he was home for Thanksgiving. They were like messing around a little bit. She did like a sweep from the feet, caught him in an armbar, and made him tap out all within 15 seconds. I'll have to send it to you after the show because it's impressive. But yes, Spencer Lee. And then here's the question. We've had the conversation in college football with the opting out. So Spencer Lee goes to the semifinals. He's got a 54-match win streak. He's going for he was going to be the first 4-time national champion of the night. He was going for his 4th national title. Ends up losing in the semifinals to a redshirt freshman, Matt Ramos from Purdue. Make sure that you remember his name because he's going to be an Olympic wrestler. He's going to be an Olympian. He's already a junior world medalist.
Yeah, it's the only good thing Purdue did last
Well,
weekend.
I was like, damn, why is everybody pissed off at Purdue? And then I saw the board. I was like, I guess they really celebrated when Matt Ramos got that win. And then I looked. I was like, what? FDNY beat Purdue? It's not FDNY. I know it's not, but you didn't know FDU. Yeah, no. Matt Ramos, he's a world medalist already at the junior level. He's going to bump up to the Olympic level. I think he's going to represent the world teams at the world championships. You wrestle for 7 minutes, especially when you get to that level of that tournament. So the NCAA tournament is considered the hardest tournament in the world. Better, more competitive than the Olympics, more competitive than world championships. And you're at the semifinals. You have to plan to wrestle for 7 minutes of a match, maybe 8 or 9 minutes if you go into overtime. Spencer Lee had a lead. He, in turn, gave up a move that lost the lead points-wise. And not only then does he lose the match by points, Matt Ramos gets the pin with 1 second left in the 3rd period. I've watched movies that were not scripted nearly as I literally it is the ending of Vision Quest. If you've ever seen the 80s wrestling movie Vision Quest, it's the final match to a T. Spencer Lee's winning in the 1st period. He's dominating. Ramos ends up coming back, winning it with points and getting the pin right at the end of the match. So I was like, I've seen this all before, but damn, you are the man. You are older than all these kids. He's like in his 8th year of college. Everything was set up for Spencer Lee. You're going to be the 5th ever 4-time national champion. Now that's Yanni Giacomo-Hollis. He's the only one that won that night. But now, yeah, you have to live with the fact that you lost in the semis your last year. And then he injury defaulted out of the rest of the tournament. So he didn't even.
I would probably say like, you get embarrassed like that in the semis, not even the final. Yeah, I don't know.
I
would not. I would
Go ahead.
not try. I would not try to fuck around in third place. Let someone else have their chance in the limelight after what you've done. Like it's the old. It's the weird thing because obviously when the U.S. lost the semifinal to Argentina in 2004 in basketball. Like they played that third place game, they just did not give a fuck. Like they basically did not show up, and the team didn't medal. Like it's like why are we here? It's either win or bust, and that's how it is for him, and it is for his mom. Are you kidding me? Why would you calmly try to sit through a normal match that means nothing? That absolutely means nothing. And look, it does mean something to some people, but to his level and his caliber, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's if you know his background, it makes a little bit more sense. I see it from. I just came from wrestling practice. I see it from that side of things. Like I have to use this as a coaching tool now, because you can have the conversation. Like, did he? I'd say if they were close in the team race because they ended up taking second. If the team race would have been closer, I'm sure he would have wrestled in the third, like, to get to the third place match because you earn more points as your team, and if you have a shot, you're definitely not going to just give it up and not compete. So for those, I think it makes sense. It was a tough situation, and I honestly don't know how you would cope with something like that. These guys. He's so competitive. He's going to take that loss extremely difficult, and I don't know what he's going to do now moving forward. I assume he's injured again. He probably hasn't really recovered from the double ACL surgery that he had in the offseason. But yeah, Spencer Lee going down, obviously probably one of the bigger upsets in I guess it's one of the bigger upsets of the weekend because we had a lot of upsets over the weekend.
That's what March entails. It's plain and simple. That's what March entails.
Nico, I guess yeah, I had to put that one out there. I appreciate it. I appreciate him tuning in, so I had to put that one out there. I was walking Boomer, and he was like making a left turn, and he stopped in the middle. Shout out Carter. He stopped in the middle of the intersection. He's like, "Hi, Jimmy."
Shout out Carter, one of the OGs.
One of the OGs. Let's get into March Madness. Nico, you were there live in person. Is this your first March Madness experience? Because I'm not sure if I know
first
that.
ever March Madness game I've ever seen in person. Obviously, for years I watched it live. I think the last time it was here was 2018, 2019 was the last time I was here in Denver, and obviously we were in college, so I wasn't able to watch that or be there in person. And then when I was younger, I loved watching it, but it was never like a thing like, I got to go see it. But this weekend, I had to be there. Plain and simple, I had to be there. There was nothing that would have held me back from not going there this past weekend. I don't care how stupid expensive the tickets were because they were dumb expensive here in Denver compared to everywhere else. I'm pretty sure you could have drove to Greensboro and got a ticket for $20 and paid less for gas and a ticket and a beer than I paid for both days.
That is probably a fair statement, but here's the, I guess now because I feel nostalgic. Buying it for the experience as much as it hurts, because like even the All-Star game tickets, I was not planning on making a purchase that big. I normally try and be like, I normally try and live like I'm frugal. Like I have to eat I have to count my pennies to survive because it's better for me to not think about like, I have a very nice situation. I don't have to pay rent. Most of my amenities are still taken care of because I'm trying to do these other things. So I'm appreciative of all that. It is buying it for the experience is a cool thing. Like
I've done that way too many times. That's the name of my game. You remember me paying $950 for a Stanley Cup ticket? I mean, I've done a lot of dumb shit, Jimmy. Okay, a lot of dumb shit. My bank account's not helping me right now.
I was going to. I'll let this cat out of the bag. If the Bengals beat the Rams in the Super Bowl, I was going to be absent. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I was going to stay out there as long as it took for the parade to happen.
Yeah, but that's a parade that you can walk up to free. All you got to do is pay for a flight, which is not cheap at all. But at the same time,
and take the days off of work. That's my other thing. I don't like to take the days off of work, especially now, because I don't trust my students with other teachers. I feel like trust my students. Why? What did they do? What are they doing now? It doesn't make sense. So it was a amazing experience. I'm glad to hear it. Were you with Jeremy or were you coached?
So
Or?
on Friday I was with my mom and my brother. Obviously, we were in the GCU quote unquote section. We weren't in the Havoc section, but we were in our own little bubble with a bunch of Arizona people because we found out we were in the middle of the ASU section, which was the second game. So it was like they were rooting for us. So I was like, "Fuck it, I'll root for you too." They lost, so that didn't really matter. But
They lost too. Arizona took it.
They were up by 12 in the second half and lost.
Arizona took 3 L's.
No, yeah. Arizona did not have a good weekend at all. Not at all.
Damn.
It was rough. ASU lost. U of A lost. GCU lost. It was not pretty. But before we get into the rest of the games, we can talk about the GCU game because look, I'm proud of our boys. We had a 6-point lead in the first half, and then Drew Timmy happened. Unfortunately,
he spilled it. He's still at Gonzaga, huh?
Yeah, he's still at Gonzaga. The amount of times I heard people just yelling, Timmy, well, I wanted to fucking puke.
Timmy!
Every time he touched the ball, I was just like, shut the fuck up. Not now. Please just don't do this to me now. I know you're better than us. I know you'll probably beat us. Like I said on last week's episode, I just want to be that one team. I just want to be the fucking FAU. I want to be the FDU. I want to be the Princeton for 1 year. It's all I want to be where everyone's like, holy shit, who the fuck are these guys? These guys are in the Sweet 16. And this year obviously wasn't meant to be. It was a hell of an effort. I think this team is returning 4 of its 5 starters and would be returning its 5th starter, but he just transferred out. But you lost your best player, preseason WAC player of the year in Javon Blackshear through I think it's Achilles or it might be ankle injury of some sort at the beginning of the year, and you're going to get him back next year. This team is poised to get back to the tournament next year. So I could not be more excited for the way the program is directioning. After being a 15 seed 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever. Yeah, 2 years ago in 2021, now 14 seed this year. Maybe you have another great run. You can get to a 13 the following or next year. So it's just a small steps to try to get to where Gonzaga is, basically, where it's a small school, not a small school, but a small conference. It's not a Power 5 or college basketball is a Power 6 because the Big East counts. It's not one of the Power 6, and you just dominate. You're still a number 1 seed or the top 3 seed every year. That's where GCU ultimately wants to be. It's far away, but you're putting the things in place. So I'm proud of the boys for fighting. But my God, it just fucking was brutal watching them just deteriorate. There was that 5-minute stretch where they didn't score. I was just like, oh, this is the end of it. I was telling Brock next to me, I was like, it was fun while it lasted. That first half was a joy. Losing my mind, yelling after every 3 after being up was fun. And then I was like, oh, that's why Gonzaga has an All-American on their team in Drew Timmy. That's why Mark Few is one of the best coaches in college basketball. That's why. That's why we're not there yet.
Yeah, there's different. That was a base built over quite some time, and in that last run where they had with the Suggs shot, that was kind of like it's taken a while. It was growing in the 80s when that moment happened, 80s, 90s. I can't remember exactly with their last Hail Mary 3. Jalen Suggs was kind of the next generation. I think Gonzaga still needs to prove it, and they're still
and they're playing as we speak right now. So they're about to start against UCLA. So by the end of the show, we'll know a little bit better because I think I have money on UCLA because I think UCLA is a very good ball club. But don't worry, I got it. I've already got the March Madness thing on my phone for when it starts, and I'll be tuning in. So I'll give the updates as we go through. But yeah, this Gonzaga team. I said it when we filled out the bracket with Jeremy. It was. People when you don't talk about Gonzaga, they all of a sudden look like a Cinderella. And when they're a Cinderella, they're so much better than when they're the favorite. And that's dangerous because obviously Drew Timmy in his 12th year at Gonzaga seems as though he has not aged 1 second outside that mustache growing a few inches every year. And he right now, he's the first player in I think he's the second or maybe he's the 3rd or 4th player in NCAA history to have over 8 20-plus point games in the March Madness tournament. He had 2 the past 2 games, and obviously tonight we'll see what he has. But it's unprecedented what Drew Timmy is, and we just had no answers.
I'm very interested to read Drew Timmy's doctoral dissertation in general studies. He's going to be like the first doctorate of general studies, how to remain in college and continue to play out whatever ridiculous eligibility rules you can find, how to do that. It's Van Wilder, but basketball. That's the movie that we're watching right now with Drew Timmy. Gonzaga in that bracket, they look to have a much easier draw, I guess, because their one seed is
gone. But their 4 seed on the other side, UConn. We'll talk about UConn here in a minute. UConn looks like an absolute buzz, and then
let's talk about UConn because then we can finish up with Arkansas. Let's talk about UConn because I'm interested. I picked them to win their first round matchup. I didn't expect much more out of them. I think I picked St. Mary's to move on past the round of 32. I obviously was incorrect in that assumption. So they're still
look, UConn. They faced an Iona team that had Rick Pitino basically 1 foot out the door. Rick Pitino took the St. John's head coaching job 2 days after he got eliminated from the tournament. So he was already gone. Same thing with Providence and Ed Cooley going to Georgetown. But they whooped up on Iona. Then they get to St. Mary's, where St. Mary's gives us a good test. St. Mary's is a very good ball club all year, a top 15 team for most of the year. And then they get to the Elite Eight tonight, where they just obliterate Arkansas. They don't give Arkansas even a chance, like a breath of fresh air. They suffocate them defensively, and all of a sudden, this UConn team that at one point was the number 1 team in the country is looking like a national title favorite, like right up there with Bama in terms of betting teams right now, because this UConn team is hitting on all cylinders. And I believe it's Dan Hurley, because Bobby Hurley is the ASU guy. But Dan Hurley has done a hell of a job getting that program back on track after Kevin Ollie left. And Calhoun, obviously, those days are way gone. And this UConn team is dangerous, very dangerous. Look, if Kansas would have beat Arkansas, I probably still would think that this UConn team would have beat them. That's how deep and that's how well coached this team is in UConn.
What do you think was behind? This will be the last question for this bracket, but what do you think was behind the way Kansas looked? Because they didn't look good against Howard. They struggled, and then obviously losing in the second round to an Arkansas team they were expected to beat. Why was Kansas not able to be the first repeat team in however long?
Kansas seemed to coast by. And look, you can throw into the factor that Bill Self wasn't coaching. Bill Self had the medical emergency for whatever reason, and he missed the first 2 rounds. So that hurts the team in terms of cooling the team down and getting in the right headspace. It absolutely does. Bill Self, look, when it comes to March, you have to have 2 things. 1, you have to have good coaching. 2, you have the guy who handles the rock, and that can handle the rock extremely well. And look, when you don't have your coach of Bill Self, that hurts you big time. And Musselman did a great job of making sure that Jalen Wilson did not beat you. And then you had Grady Dick minimalized completely. You made KJ Adams, McCullough, and I can't remember the other guy's name, beat you. And you did not let those top guys beat you. And that was a great game plan because Kansas was struggling to get made shots at the end of that game, while it seemed as though Arkansas was just getting anything they wanted offensively. So, if Bill Self were coaching, I think they get to the second weekend, gets to this weekend. I really do. But right now with Musselman's extreme, Musselman's extreme, not reality, but extreme resume of being in the NCAA tournament for a lot of years. Winning a lot of big games in the NCAA tournament, he just outcoached Kansas and just decided to move on to the next round, where it was a nice quick trip to New York they had, or Vegas, whatever it was that they had, but they still made it to the Elite Eight.
They did make it. They did make it, so they had the chance, I guess. Basically, if you make the tournament, you don't want to be out in the first round, unless you are a small school like a team in the SEC. Your goal is to make it to the second weekend. Team in the Big 12, your goal is definitely. If you're Kansas, your goal is to make it to the Elite Eight. They want Elite Eight's Final Fours. They don't want this Sweet 16 bullshit, especially not losing in the round of 32. That's unacceptable for them. But I've been hearing a little bit more about UConn, and it's interesting to talk about them on the men's side of the bracket. I'm used to hearing their dominance on the women's side, but I guess that program is now shifted. I'm not sure how
And if Carter's still listening, shout out Jana. She played against UConn, hit a couple big threes. I watched that game on Monday night, or might have been Tuesday night, whatever it was, and Jana was balling the hell out. So Jana is going to be a big time starter for Baylor next year, and I think in her last year, final year there. So big time tournament team. They went into UConn, had a lead, I believe, at halftime. Just couldn't put together because obviously Gino is one a hell of a coach. So it fell too short for Jana and Baylor Bears against UConn Huskies women's team. But like I said, when you lose the UConn's women's basketball team, you're like, that's probably the best team. It's okay. It's okay. Like if we lose, it sucks. But at the same time, that's that's the pinnacle of women's basketball and college women's and on the college level.
Even I know that. Even I know that UConn women's basketball is not to be messed with. So that was good for Jana and obviously Cherry Creek High School graduate. Cherry Creek is doing very well in producing a lot of players that are making an impact. Nobody on the men's side of the tournament, but just in general. So shout out to Jana.
Julian Hammond was CU, who was a quarterback for three of the four or two of the three national championship teams. He dropped. Yeah, state championships teams. He dropped 20 in the NIT tournament for CU. So CU wasn't a tournament team, but still big time player and on a big level.
I didn't even realize that they made it to the NIT. I just heard them. Obviously, they struggled down the stretch. But let's talk about. You want to just stay in the Sweet 16, or do you want to talk about?
Let's go region by region because we can talk about the main games in each region.
So that was the West that we just talked about. So moving from the West, if I can get my thing to all right, Midwest, because this is where your
Midwest. National champion is coming from.
Yeah, so do we want to do that one, or do I kind of want to talk about Marquette because I think some of the people that I was with last week are going to be watching and they probably need some therapy after what happened to them because to not even make it close as the 2 seed and having one of people said that they should be able to make it to at least the Sweet 16. Sweet 16 was supposed to be a given.
Let me remind all those Marquette fans how the months of the years go, Jimmy. January, February, Izzo. And that's how it's been for 25 years. When it comes to March, when Michigan's in the tournament, it is hard to bet against them unless they've had just an absolutely awful year. Izzo is that great of a coach. And look, Shaka Smart broke the monkey off his back. He lost, I think it was 8 straight tournament games leading up to the first round of Marquette this year. 8 straight with Texas. And you look at what I don't know his last name, but Kolek just basically did nothing and disappeared. It was a disappearing act. And when Michigan State gets to the level of the round of 32 where they're the underdog, they believe they could beat anybody. If you look at pre-conference games in college basketball level where all of us aren't paying college basketball, but Michigan State pays attention to college basketball. That's where they schedule the Dukes. That's where they schedule the Gonzagas in October, and they play on a Navy ship. They play well-tested games. Well, Marquette, yes, the Big East is an excellent conference, absolutely excellent conference. But Marquette was playing the Sisters of the Poor in November, while Izzo was preparing his boys for March in November. That's the difference. That's the difference between high-level coaching and what Shaka Smart has done. Shaka Smart, there's no denying what he did at VCU. But look at his tenure at Texas, right? Lost in the first round 3 of the 4 years. In the 4th year, they didn't make it. Out of the program. Comes to Marquette where he has a great team. He absolutely has a great team. They run away with the Big East tournament. They obliterate, they obliterate Xavier. And they win their Big East tournament. And then when they get to March, it's like they just forget who they are, right? It's like they forget. And one team you don't want to forget who you are against is the Michigan State Spartans. I put this game more on the backs of what Tom Izzo does every single year in March than what Marquette didn't do. Because plain simple, they got out-coached, they got outplayed, and they got outsmarted. And that's exactly what Marquette has to do differently if they want to take the next step, like Michigan State and Tom Izzo has done in the past.
I think it was harsh, but it was fair because it's a basketball school. That's what they are That's what they care about. So that's where their resources are going to be. This is also the East bracket has the 16-1. Arizona, they sucked. The weekend sucked for Arizona, but at least they're not the last. Now Purdue can be like, oh, and Virginia. Virginia, too. That's who I was thinking of. Virginia lost early, but at least now they're not the last 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed because Fairleigh Dickinson.
So let me put this in context. First of all, UMBC was the first 16 seed. They dominated Virginia. You go back and watch that game. Virginia wasn't in the game in the second half. They dominated that game. Then you get to this year where Fairleigh Dickinson was a first 4 game, right? They have to win to get in the tournament, which means they were one of the 4 lowest teams seeded in the tournament to make the tournament. So that means they had to play a 16 game seed in to play the number 1 seed Purdue. Then you factor in that this Fairleigh Dickinson team does not have anyone standing over the height of 6'7". Just for instance, Zach Edey is 7'4". We'll get to that here in a moment. Then you get to the point where, Jimmy, Fairleigh Dickinson shouldn't have been in the tournament. They lost their conference championship to a team that is not eligible to make the tournament because of the move from D2. This is the biggest upset in college basketball history. Plain and simple. And it's bigger than UMBC because of the factor in that Zach Edey, the 7'4" man from Purdue, is the runaway player of the year. We're talking, look, to put this in perspective, it is the Heisman Trophy winner. Just say, for instance, who won it last year? Bryce Young? No. Who fucking won it? Oh, Caleb Williams doesn't matter.
Williams, yeah.
Think Bryce Young last year. Think if Bryce Young last year lost to 2-12 University of Colorado, who got a bid because no one else was better than them in a tournament. That's the magnitude.
They were the first eligible team. Yeah.
It is the best player in the country, quote unquote. It's not, in my opinion, it's not the best player in the country. I think Brandon Miller still is. But the next player of the year in the country, who's 7'6", who's 7'4", but nearly a full foot taller than every single player on the opposing team, and you lost to them. I mean, like I said, 2 of the biggest upsets in March history. Spencer Lee and then what Fairleigh Dickinson did to Purdue. It is something unfathomable what this Fairleigh Dickinson team did. Tobin Anderson, great coach. My God, he jumped at that Iona job. He said, there's a great run, time to move on. Same thing with St. Peter's coach. That's what I'm worried about my team, is that Bryce Drew would leave, which if we make a run, that's a conversation for another day. Look, this Fairleigh Dickinson team was in the game against FAU as well. They were in the game. They only lost by, I think, 4 or 5 points, and they were a team that it was America's darling. UMBC was the first to ever do it, but this is the biggest upset in tournament history. Far and away. And what this great story out of, I still don't even know what state they're in. I have no idea. But the fact that they played at school in a quote unquote college a quote unquote basketball state in Indiana, right? Purdue is in Indiana, which is known as the basketball state in the country, and you beat the number 1 team. That is unfathomable. I could not tell you a single player on the team, but I watched every second of their upset. Actually, no, I didn't, because it was in the middle of the GCU game. Either way, I still was paying attention to what was happening. It is unfathomable what happened on that Friday.
You ready for this? They're from Hackensack, New Jersey. That is where FDU is located. Hackensack, New Jersey.
Could not have ever guessed that.
Hackensack, excuse me.
I don't know if you saw I don't know what it's called, but it's one of the athletic managers or athletic coordinators or directors or something. He's a junior at the school. He's 21 years old. So they showed him also, which was fucking hilarious too. So this school does literally look. Their gym they play in, Jimmy, is smaller than the high school gym I played in.
Yeah,
smaller than Creek's high school gym. And they just beat Purdue. I mean, look.
Out-rebounded them, too, didn't they? They out-rebounded a team that basically to a man had 6 inches less height against every single person. Yeah. I had Purdue in my Elite 8.
It's the smallest team in March Madness history. It's not just the smallest team this year. Maybe it's not the smallest team. in the modern era where there's color on the TV, it's the smallest team in tournament history. Because obviously in the 40s and 20s, who the fuck knows? But either way, in the colored TV era, it's the smallest team in March Madness history.
Have you? Yeah, it's amazing how far the tournament has come. Because I don't know if you know watching the old games, they used to not have the scoreboard on the TV all the time.
Yeah,
it used to come in and out. You used to have to listen to the announcer. Otherwise, you had no idea what else was going on. For the East, obviously the representative out of those brackets in the Sweet 16 they're playing right now, FAU and Tennessee. Tennessee knocked out Duke. Duke, after Coach K leaves, they are now an early exit in the tournament. Bad year for the ACC, but Tennessee. It sounds more like Tennessee was impressive more so than Duke sucking.
Look, they couldn't. Neither team could score. Tennessee's defense, as we said it when we broke down this tournament, is a hell of a defense. But look, I am not paying attention to this FAU Tennessee game at all because I'm pretty sure the over/under was set at 125, and most of the games have been going over 140 every game. That's how low scoring of these two teams are expected. So I am not even watching this game, plain and simple, because first of all, FAU pissed me off because they beat my Final Four team in Memphis. So there's the first domino to fall on Saturday to piss me off. So I don't have so one of my Final Four was done. Then obviously Kansas losing put the nail in the coffin that was already built by FAU. So, and then the fact that they had that end of the game dunk against Fairleigh Dickinson pissed me off too. Look, if it was against Purdue, I don't care, but it's a team that you should have beat by a lot more. And you want to showboat, you're getting your ass kicked by Tennessee right now. It's only by 5. So either way, I think Tennessee wins this game, and Duke. Look, it was an off year for Duke. John Shire getting to the round of 32 and then winning ACC title compared to what the rest of the ACC was is an accomplishment because you were the best team in the ACC, right? Virginia, dog water. North Carolina, number 1 team preseason, didn't make the tournament. You go down a list of ACC teams that underperformed, and Duke, quote unquote, overperformed after 1 year losing your Hall of Fame head coach. So, as much as I'm not a fan of Duke, I hate them less because John Shire is the head coach.
Yeah, I still don't really care for them all that much, but I don't really have a reason. That's just how I feel. Let's move to the Midwest. That is where I have my national championship.
Before we move out of the East, we got to talk about my darling of a team, my new favorite team in the tournament, and that's the Kansas State Wildcats. I don't know if you've been watching what this Kansas State team did. They go to the brink with Kentucky, knock off Kentucky. They played today's game, the game right before we started recording and started going live. They played against Michigan State where Marquise Noel, remember the name, Marquise Noel broke the record for the most assists in a March Madness game. 19 assists and an overtime win against Michigan State. This Kansas State team, I had them in the Elite 8, funny enough. I had them beating Marquette. So that's the only thing I've gotten right in terms of upset wise. But this Kansas State team is in a great position to get themselves to their first Final Four in I don't know how long. They have great coaching. They obviously have the great story with Keontae Johnson. If there's a team, if you're like me and you've already lost your national champion thus far, and you're just looking for a team to root for, that's fun to watch and that's exciting, jump on the Kansas State bandwagon with me. Because that's the team right now that I'm like, hell yeah, get to the Final Four, beat Bama, shock the world, see what happens. Because I love what Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson and the rest of the Kansas State Wildcats are doing. Because that's my new favorite team to watch. I kid you not, I watched every single game outside of the Montana State game. Watched that Kentucky game intently, and obviously watched that Michigan State game intently. And this Kansas State team is for real.
Nico, you sounded like Billy Mays on one of those late night infomercials there. Has your national champion already been eliminated from contention?
Like me.
Are you looking for a fun team to root for like I am to finish out this March Madness bracket? Well, come on over to the Kansas State bandwagon.
Yeah, come on. Hey, it's wide open. Obviously, I've harked on Marquise Noel over and over again. Obviously, Keontae Johnson is one of the best stories of college basketball. I'll say that every damn time I talk about this team. And the fact that dude dropped 19 assists, they were down by 1 in overtime, and Marquise Noel drew up a play or called a play where a backdoor lob behind the back dunk. to take the lead in overtime. This team is electric, absolutely electric.
I will keep an eye on them. I have one of the little guys in my class really likes Kansas State.
Oh, he's
really
loving life right now. He's loving life.
He was nervous today. He didn't say much today during class. He was nervous. I'm sure he's going to be in his Kansas State sleeveless shirt because he only wears sleeveless shirts. He's in that phase of middle school where it's only sleeveless. If I sleeves and restrict the guns, why? Why would I do that?
Oh gosh.
The Midwest. My national champion, Houston, gave me a scare.
Alive. Jimmy's bracket
Gave me
alive,
a scare. Yeah, no, I have 1,070 points that I could still score. I don't know if it's going to happen because none of the matchups that are showing up are in green. I don't know if that's bad. They're all in red. Is that a good thing? Red means good, right?
No, not
good. Well, then I guess this was the year the shoe was bound to fall. Like I've been lucky. I've been pretty decent.
You're gonna beat me.
Yeah,
you're gonna beat me.
It's been like ever since I was on the radio. I was in like the top 5 of the bracket challenges, and I didn't know shit about what I was picking. And then this year, I didn't watch any of the games, but I tried to listen to Mark Titus. I tried to listen to these guys that know what they're talking about. And all of you guys that know what you're talking about don't know dick, is what I'm coming. That's the conclusion I came. That's what I came to.
No one knows.
What do you want to talk about with this Midwest bracket? Where
well, first of all, Hoosiers losing. That's an upset. Look,
Hoosiers.
That's funny. It's funny that they lose to Miami and Port Jeremy's in shambles. And look, this region is a testament to what wins in March. Like I said earlier, it's coaching, and it's also great guard play. You don't have a guard that can handle the game and slow down the game and play at your pace. You're going to be a Purdue. You're going to be a Purdue where you have the best player in the country that's a big, but you don't have a guy to handle the ball, bring the ball up the court that can handle the game. And right now, Houston absolutely has that in Marcus Sasser. Marcus Sasser helping them. Auburn gave them a scare, which I think is also funny how it was mashed up that way because that game against Auburn was in Birmingham. So it was majority Auburn fans in that stadium, right? It was majority Auburn fans in the stadium. You play a road game, quote unquote, because you're trying to get to a home game in a couple weeks and next weekend's games. And you play a terrible first half and come out and just blow them out of the water in the second half. Not Ralph Sampson, Kevin or Kelvin Sampson has done a hell of a job with this team and getting them to play the right way. Because there's no doubt that Marcus Sasser is not 100%. But what they've done in the second half and making the life miserable for their other team and basically be able to sit guys for health reasons is going to help them in the long run. It's going to be a problem, though, when you run in if you get past Miami, who out-rebounded Indiana by 19 rebounds in the second half, by the way. If you're able to get past them, you're going to run into a red-hot Texas team. And obviously, honestly, Xavier is not no slouch over either.
I was going to say, are you picking Texas?
Well, I had this Xavier Texas matchup for one of my fucking regions. It actually wasn't terrible, but
I had Penn State Xavier. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, for whatever reason, my Midwest region was the only region that I actually did something in. And I have Texas moving on. I have Texas in my Final Four. Yes, that bracket's dead now, but I still think Texas is a Final Four team. I think Shabari Rice has done a hell of a job at the point guard position, and I can't keep harping enough how important the guys handling the ball is to make a deep run in March. Xavier has a lot of great shooters. They had that scare in the first round against, I believe it was against Pitt, where they were down at one point, and then they stormed back and just rolled them. And it's the same way when they fought or when they played Kennesaw State in the first round in regards to instead of playing Pitt in the second round. So, look, I think the Texas team is ready, and I think the Texas team is the best team in this section or quadrant or whatever the hell you want to call it. I think the coaching from Kelvin Sampson will help Houston more, and the Marcus Sasser having the big-time player does give them an advantage over Texas because obviously Texas lost Chris Beard earlier in the year to everything that's happened earlier. And the new coach has done a hell of a job, but I just don't know if they're ready. And it's old status is Texas back, right? You can say the same thing for football. You say the same thing for basketball too, because I don't know what to think. There's times where I think Texas is a Final Four team. And there's times where I think they could have lost to Penn State. It's everything in between and nothing one way or the other.
Anything else you want to hit out of the Midwest?
The Midwest was probably the if you were going to get one section of the bracket correct, it's probably going to be this one, because of how top heavy this is, and the depth wasn't necessarily there. I would have loved to see Drake, see them knock off Miami, but obviously Miami is a sleeper team now with Isaiah Wong against them. So look, you have 1, 2, 3, and 5 facing each other in the Sweet 16. It's not like this is a sexy matchup technically compared to the rest. And look, you do have the Arkansas versus UConn, UCLA versus Gonzaga, but it's not pretty like the other ones. I don't know. It's good teams, very good teams, but it's not fun. I guess I don't know. It's fun for me. I love watching these games. I don't care who the hell's playing. I'm watching every damn game, but it's not pretty.
Speaking of not pretty, Alabama basketball not pretty this season. They play very pretty, but there's a stigma surrounding that. They stepped in shit. They were sprayed by a skunk. They need a tomato bath. We got to get that program through the wash.
They stepped in shit, and they're still winning Miss Congeniality. Like it is absolutely crazy how this team is doing this, because they're the best team in the country. I hate saying it. 96
points in the first round. I think other than Kansas, they're the only team to score 90 points in the first round. Yeah, they're trying to make a statement, and they haven't really ran much adversity yet. So
they're probably not going to until the Final Four. Look, I like the San Diego State team. I think they're a tough test, but it's not going to beat what this Alabama team can do. I think this Creighton team that I watched on Sunday, that is a very, very good ball club that whooped up on Baylor, had a chance because of their size in the middle of Colbrenner, and they have guards that can match up with Alabama, but Alabama doesn't make the Final Four. It is an upset, plain and simple. Look, if Princeton pulls off the win against fucking Creighton, and you face Princeton in the damn Elite Eight, I mean, talking about a cakewalk. You face a 15 seed, you face a 9 seed, you'd face you'd face a 15 seed, 16, 9. You'd face a 5 and then a 15. That doesn't test you for anything. While K-State over here is fighting through Kentucky and through Michigan State, 2 blue bloods programs.
Dragging guys, stabbing them on the gotcha. I'm next. Meanwhile, yeah, it's Alabama's getting a pillow fight.
I would love to see.
They were handed a smoking gun, if you will.
That's
too soon.
Maybe too soon. But well,
I had to try. Because F how they've handled that situation. That's all.
And just F that school trying to be a basketball school. Okay, I said last week,
you already have football. You can't have basketball too.
Let us other schools have fun. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
But I will say, the Princeton run is unbelievable. And it's funny, you look at the amount of money that goes into Princeton. Princeton could technically be a top 5 team in the country every year if they put money in their athletics. But they don't.
It's the total Princeton team, because I was hearing something, one of the shows that I listened to is the point guard, he speaks 3 different languages. He's going to get his master's degree in finance, and he plays Spanish flamenco guitar.
They're doing math homework in the hotel at the Sweet 16. I saw it.
Yeah, it's a study tank, and now they're like, damn, Creighton's the only like really difficult school, really other highly challenging academic institution. We can't go study with the Kansas State kids. What are you talking about?
It's the only team in the tournament that builds their practice schedule around their study schedule. Right? Every other team in the country builds their school schedule around their practice schedule.
Is this guy's name Chet Smith? He's like the perfect. He's the guy. He's the antagonist in the Hallmark movie. He went to Princeton. He's got a good finance job. He plays the guitar. He plays Spanish, specifically Spanish flamenco guitar. Why do I need to know that? He speaks 4 languages. He had sex with your mom in high school.
It's because
Deal
you
with it.
you gotta have some fun with these names. And he probably look, poor Arizona, right? Obviously, all 3 of our teams, or not our teams, fuck the other 2 schools. The 3 Arizona teams, the two of them obviously had high hopes. Arizona was a top 10 team in the country for most of the year. They have a guy who's honoring Steve Kerr with putting his first name, which is Kerr, Kerr, on his jersey, and then he transferred out. I thought that was very funny. I had some gripes with our boys at Fat Boy Fadeaway over that because they're AZ fans. So
I had Arizona in my Final Four. So
I just didn't want Bama and Jimmy. That's the reason why I had Arizona go. That's the reason why most teams had Arizona going far. I think you take a poll. There's a lot of people that be like, "Do you believe in Arizona to win the national championship?" And a lot of people be like, "No." There's a like think about it like this. Like it is Bama's quadrant, right? It is Bama's quadrant. Everyone else can't hold a candle to what this quadrant has. And the number 2 team getting bounced to a school that does not play sports, they play school, is just funny. It's funny. And it's what March entails.
And it's also hilarious too because Arizona is like the easiest school to get into, and Princeton you need to have a country club connection. I think I know one person from Cherry Creek was able to make it into Princeton, and it was on like a good recommendation from a senator or some
and
shit.
It's also because he was the gold helmet winner and played lacrosse.
He was going for a lacrosse scholarship. Yeah, Mike Marine. Yeah. It is just that was the best. Like he's the bully from a high school movie. He's the guy. Princeton point guard is the guy that the Mighty Ducks would be playing against because he's cake eater. That's what he is. He's Connor Banks. That's his name.
Adam Banks. Don't you disrespect the Mighty Ducks movie like that.
Adam Banks.
I'm sorry. Yes. I'm sorry. I had to do that. I had to correct you. That's just in my nature. I'm sorry.
I should go take a lap.
Yeah. You know that's my movie.
10 up downs for me. 10 up downs. Actually, we're talking basketball, so it would be suicides. So
those words, the 1 or 2 suicides, still gives me the heebie-jeebies.
We never really had to. That's the good thing about wrestling is we didn't do that, but it'd be like up downs, burpees, push-ups, sit-ups with somebody on your back. What? That doesn't make sense.
And the more I ran, the more I realized, I would have much rather done
that. Running is no joke.
Both are no fun. You're a lineman, okay? Fucking deal with it. You're listening to a lineman show. Yeah, we don't like running. Newsflash.
I don't like running. I also sometimes I forget how big like I was and how big we are in general. But then like today, so we had a joint practice over at Legend, and they have a freshman heavyweight. He's 275 pounds. He's a big boy. I was wrestling with him. I was like, you're not good. Like, I know, not that he's not good, but like, I know I can beat you. I know a lot of different tricks. I can beat you that way. I can't push you. I go to move you, and you're just like, ugh. It's all that. He just doesn't know how to control his testosterone or his aggression yet, so he's still a little freshman. I was like, God, this is a massive human being. How did I play college football against people this size and bigger?
And smarter.
And smarter.
Also, freshman in high school versus senior in college is a little different.
Senior, I appreciate you saying I was a senior in college. I was starting to feel old.
Not you, but like yeah.
Anything? I think that was our last read.
I'll give you my breakdown of what I think the Final Four will be. Obviously, by tomorrow, this could be completely dead. I know. Look, one of my teams is Kansas State. Plain simple. I have K-State, Bama. I have I'm gonna have Texas again, and I have UCLA. I have UCLA winning this game against Gonzaga. They're only up by 3 right now. With the first half almost with 6 minutes left in the first half. So that's my Final Four. Deal with it. I know my bracket's dead, but if you think that my March is done, then you haven't met the degenerate gambler that I am, and that is bet on every single damn game this tournament. Not every game. I will tell you that. Not
every game.
But every game.
Every game.
Laser. Every game.
I would agree. Preparation H does feel good on the whole. I really hope it's Houston, UCLA for the Midwest West Final Four, because I had Arizona, Marquette in the South and the East, and It's just not happening.
Both were done after the first weekend. My champion was done after the first weekend, so you got me beat there.
I'm expecting my champion to go out every second because Jim Nantz can't have anything nice. He's not going to get to call his own team in the Final Four.
I don't know.
I'm trying to jinx it. I'm not knocking on wood. He's not going to do it.
Scriptwriters have it, Jimmy. They have it down.
It's in the scriptwriter's hands now. We leave it up to God. It's been a good tournament so far. I'll definitely get into watching more of the games the closer it gets to the championship. Sometimes it weirds me out because, like, the last time I was really invested, Kevin Ware happened. That was the last time that I can remember being really invested in a March Madness tournament.
That's nearly over 10 years.
It still haunts me. Yeah. It still scares the shit out of me when I think about it. That was the most intense moment I can remember.
I've ever seen.
Yeah,
not the most intense. I would say that I'm not going to go on a list here, but that injury with the Bengals game obviously is probably a little bit more scary.
Oh well,
it's like 1A, 1B.
It's a difference because of the trauma that the picture. Yeah, it's a traumatic picture when Hamlin falls back. I thought it was a traumatic picture when a guy. I've done that so many times. I was just jumping towards the rim, and then I caught myself on one foot, and his leg just went. Joke's on you.
It's just like gives you the. It's just like.
Would it be bad if I broke right now?
God. Well, kids, drink your milk.
Drink a lot of milk.
Drink your milk.
A lot of milk. We're wrapping up with the World Baseball Classic. I know.
I watched the World Baseball Classic.
Did you watch more than the final though?
No, I know. I only watched the ninth inning. If I'm being honest with you. Sorry.
Did you see Trey Turner's home run to get them past Venezuela and Colombia?
I saw the highlights, but that's
Trey Turner himself knocked out Latin America.
Hey, good for Trey Turner. I'm not mad. I remember Trey Turner's name. I hate that he was on the Dodgers. He's not on the Dodgers anymore, so I like him a little more. That's cool.
He's a Philly.
I know he's one of the fastest people in baseball. I know that.
I didn't know that. I honestly, I'm so far behind in baseball. I was glad that it was Ohtani versus Trout.
Opening day, by the way, is next week, Jim.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to do something like that, but yeah.
So I couldn't even fake it.
We'll talk about it when we'll talk about it alongside the PLL when basketball and hockey are done.
I might talk about
it. And maybe even we'll talk about the NFL and we'll talk about the NFL.
Honestly, I'm going to be talking about WrestleMania before I'm talking about baseball because this Cody Rhodes Roman Reigns story has got me invested. Yeah. I'm 10 years old again. That's all I want to watch. I just want to see Cody Rhodes fight Roman Reigns, and I don't know who's going to win.
I don't know who else is fighting or who the fuck else is even showing up. But
John Cena versus Austin Theory. John Cena's back.
Who? Not John Cena. Who? No, the other guy.
Oh,
who?
Austin Theory.
Who? I'm an owl. Who?
Yeah. The Usos versus Sammy and Kevin Owens.
Yeah, I know that, but
yeah.
Like so, there's a lot of
I think Dominic is going to get his ass kicked by Ray. Ray's going into the Hall of Fame.
You know it's bad when we're talking about sons of fighting their fathers in wrestling. That we're like, I probably should stop watching this. I'm still back.
Really funny. It's really funny when you think about if there wasn't a ring, this would just be on the front lawn of some like really trashy neighborhood. Just a father and you're a deadbeat dad. You were never around. Yeah, I may have missed some birthdays. I may have missed some things. But I was out making a living, providing for my family.
And that's wrestling for you, and that's what we tuned into all the time as a kid. And that's what we'll be tuning in on WrestleMania.
Yeah, Nico's came over to my house before for WrestleMania parties. We watched. I know. We watched Seth Rollins.
Honestly, I'll probably watch again this year. Like, I don't watch anything but that. I feel like every year that the Royal Rumble, because the Royal Rumble is like my favorite event to always watch. So I'll have it on. And this is your segment, a baseball segment for the week, presented by Far on the Bench, where we talk 2 minutes of the World Baseball Classic and Trey Turner, and we switched it right to WrestleMania.
You told me about opening day, and my ADHD went.
It's funny because obviously all of you said, look, if you want to listen to baseball stuff, don't listen to us. I mean, listen to our stuff. Listen to us for everything else.
Listen to our show first, and then go listen to the Variety Sports Network show.
every other sport, and then listen to the Variety Sports Network because I saw a fun thing where they were all given teams, random teams. Can I be given a random
Nico,
team? I don't
Nico.
have a fucking. My team is shit. And
Do you know when the Rockies move into the AL West?
I don't even fucking care when it is.
I know, but do you know when, or were you aware that was a thing that was happening? I don't know why it's happening.
I mean, it's not currently happening because maybe it's better for us because we don't have to face Dodgers, Jimmy. Maybe it's better.
You know that they would move them. They would be like, nope, the Rockies can never win a division championship in their 28 years.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. It's 28 now. 28 years. The Colorado Rockies have never been NL West champions. We've hosted 2 All-Star games. We've never won a division championship.
We've been to a World
Series. Was the only team, one of the first teams in the modern era to win the 164th game of the season. Go on a run from there.
Or third or 63rd or whatever. I don't know.
It was one.
Whatever it is.
One past everybody else. Yeah. Or Matt Holliday, he was safe. He got that raspberry on his chin. That's
the highlight of our baseball lives. Jimmy,
that was the height of my baseball. Yes, I played baseball at this time. I saw Matt Holliday score. I was like, "This is honestly." I'm seriously considering playing college baseball over college football. Watching that moment, I was like, that was cool.
Yeah, look, I did watch that. I did watch that magical run, the Rocktober run. That was the only bright source of fun I ever had in baseball. Like I have had a little.
And then we got swept in the World Series by the fucking Red Sox.
Yeah, Boston.
By the fucking Red Sox.
Look, if the Rockies do good this year, we'll talk about them more. Plain and simple. But I'm not counting on it, and neither is Jimmy. So
if Herman Marquez has another good season, I feel like we should give him his flowers because he would be a 3-time in a row All-Star if he makes it this year. He's our best player since Ubaldo Jimenez.
Hey, you got that on the pitcher. You got that going for you.
Yeah. I was trying to explain it to Raleigh's parents. I was like, because they were saying, well, we used to have, if the Bucks scored like 70 points or hit 10 free throws in the game, you'd get $4 sandwiches at Arby's. I said, yeah, we usually do Taco Bell. If the Rockies score 7 or more runs, you get free tacos the next day. It only sounded bad, though, because the guy that was normally – we would chant, we want tacos in the 9th inning, and the guy who was normally hitting the home run to get us the tacos was named Carlos Gonzalez. So it looked like we were all just yelling at some Mexican guy, we want tacos. It looked very racially inappropriate.
Hey, Cargo is a Rocky legend. Don't you forget. Nobody cares about that man outside Denver, Colorado, but Rocky legend Cargo.
You know, that was also, too, I forget, Troy Tulowitzki. You remember how big a deal Troy Tulowitzki was?
I love Tulo.
How big. And then how much he was hated for those 2 years where he's like, I have heavy legs.
He was not hated as much.
He got drugged through. Jimmy. We did suck. I know that. He was hated by
everyone else outside of Colorado. Like we were upset, but at the same time, looking back, why the fuck were we upset? Because it's happened. Every star player that's walked through those
because it was. I feel here's the thing, and you don't understand this. That Band-Aid from Melo was still fresh at that point.
That's the only reason why. Yeah,
that is the one sole reason. And 2, the Broncos at the time were in the period of going either 8-8 or it was the McDaniels because it was 2007.
Yeah, yeah.
It was 2007, so it would have been post Shanahan, and post Shanahan Broncos wasn't good for a while. Until John Fox got brought in and Peyton Manning and those things. But, yeah, it was a weird time. It's been a long time since the Rockies have been that relevant in baseball.
To be fair, we technically were a little bit relevant in 2019. Funny enough, because we got our shit pushed in by the Brewers. Yeah, we did, but we beat the Cubs, and I had a lot of fun with that because I rubbed it in the face of all my Augustana friends because my team's better than yours, and now both our teams are shit. So
neither of us are in a very good place. I want Kyle Schwarber to play for Colorado. That's like my one.
I want Ohtani to play for Colorado. Look, if
he's never
I know he'll never. But if you want to obliterate every home run record known to mankind, come to the Rockies because
he can pitch here too.
And you can pitch here too. That's the only pitch you need, okay? If you want to break every home run record known to mankind, you want to break Barry Bonds' record / Hank Aaron's, however you want to see it. If you want to break the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa home run record that is not held by Aaron Judge, that is held by those two gentlemen, come to Colorado. We'll pay you. We'll name the city, not name the city after you, but we'll give you whatever you want. Plain and simple.
The Ohtani Rockies.
All I'm saying, Jimmy, is the Los Angeles Angels have the two best players of this generation, and they suck. So Ohtani wouldn't do nothing but break records here, and maybe that's enough to make us halfway relevant.
It would be interesting because I honestly haven't watched him pitch enough to know if he caters to having guys hit fly balls. If you get fly balls hit off of you, you can't pitch in Colorado.
No, you cannot.
You can't. Because you're not going to be able to strike everybody out. And if you leave it this high in the zone, it's gone. It was ridiculous. Yeah, we saw it live, especially the best players in the game, the guys that could hit home runs. Pete Alonso almost killed a kid.
We saw Ohtani hit the third deck in warm-ups. He broke the sign in the third deck in the party deck.
The rooftop. You go to the rooftop because you don't want to be at a base. It's a bar that a baseball game broke out at. That's the rooftop bar.
And a flying your way in warm-ups.
spilled some guy's beer. He was pissed. He was not having a good time. Definitely straight up not having a good time.
I know our friends that are from St. Louis are pitching for him to come to Cardinals. Look, I'm just saying, if you want to break every record known to mankind, come to Colorado. You'll be able to do it.
The last thing, because this is what we can wrap up with. Bennington is the slimiest goaltender in the NHL. So slimy that the linesman told Flower, "You're like Flirty. I know that you want to teach this guy a lesson. You want to use your French Canadian accent and beat the shit out of Jordan Bennington. We all would like that. We can't have you touching. You don't associate with that guy. That
actually, Jimmy, really a better word is the most irrelevant goalie in hockey because he sucks and his team sucks now, and he's going to be replaced here in the next year or so. And if they don't replace him, they're going to keep sucking. Plain and simple. If you're a Blues fan, you were VSN, you listen to this, you want to keep Bennington around because he gave you one magical run. You're going to be below the Chicago Blackhawks with Connor Bedard in a fucking year. And I hate saying that sentence put together, but you're going to turn it into irrelevancy.
I will give them credit. They do try and VSN and the Blues fans that I see try and stick up for him, but he was in the total wrong. The Hartman didn't do anything. He was skating in a straight line. Bennington was out of the crease to try and defend the puck, and he got his ass kicked by the shot. He wasn't in the right position. He was pissed.
That's funny.
He was mad that Kadri. Yeah, he was mad that Kadri scored and celebrated. So he swung his stick at him. He threw a water bottle in his face. He's just a whiny bitch.
It's like dealing with a child.
It is, and he doesn't even understand. He's cheering,
and he's not good.
No, he gave up 5. He had given up that last goal against the Wild was his 5th of the night.
He's not good.
He's getting shelled.
You had a cute run. You had a cute run where honestly it wasn't on you. It was the fucking rest of your team that was.
You had Pietrangelo on defense at that point.
You had Pietrangelo. You had O'Reilly. You had Tarasenko. With that bad team in front of you, you're garbage. So he's like I said, he's irrelevant. He's irrelevant.
He is now irrelevant.
Bad goalie, going to be out of the league in 2 years. You want to keep talking shit? Keep spraying water balls on a guy? Knock yourself out because you're doing that for a last place team or a second to last place team in your division. Sorry about it, VSN. Sorry.
No,
I gave you some love, VSN, with the Cardinals possibly getting Ohtani. I had to come back with the good cop, bad cop.
You know that they have us on here because we bring the controversial opinion. We're the one non-Blues or St. Louis voice that they get to listen to, so they can deal with it. I love them. We all love them.
We love you guys. But we hate your teams.
Yeah, be sure to follow at variety_sports_. I think that's going to bring us to the end of the live show, impromptu live show. We'll talk more about the NHL update, where the standings sit. That season is wrapping up very quickly. But we do have, we'll talk, kind of recap a little bit more. But March Madness takes up a majority of the episodes for March because it's named after it.
March Madness.
It's fucking named after it. You don't have to look that hard. It's in the name. That's all you have to worry about. So
yeah,
be sure to follow.
And we're a month away from the draft. We'll talk about that after this is done. Don't worry. There's free agency signings that my team made, that Jimmy's team might make or is making, that may happen. There's NBA stuff. The Nuggets are giving me heart attacks every night, so we'll have to talk about that eventually. But yeah, like I said, we're ramping up right now. March Madness is March heavy. That's plain and simple.
All right. Well, be sure to follow at FEOTB Pod on all social media platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you very much if you tuned in live on YouTube or Twitter. Check out our next live show. We'll probably do one at some point, probably around the Final Four, maybe around the NFL draft, but we'll talk more about that. We could drop them on you by surprise, just like we did on this one too. So be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Become a bench warmer. And thank you very much for tuning in to this live episode 130 of the podcast. For myself, Jimmy Plato, my co-host, Nico Bryant. We will see you guys next week.
Peace.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.